one. If you got your Bible or your Bible app, turn to Joshua 14. Joshua is in about the front quarter of your Bible. A couple things while you're turning there. Fathers, let's drink today. Before you leave, let's get hammered on some root beer. Okay? We have root beer for you. So here's the deal. On your way out today, in the front of our building, right in the grass right there, you'll see a whole big bar thing set up. We got root beer straight from the tap. We bought kegs for you. It's awesome, okay? It's probably the best root beer you will ever drink. If you want to get crazy with it, we'll even throw some ice cream in there for floats. So we are here to celebrate you today, Dad. So before you leave today and go about your day, whatever you're doing, come grab some root beer on your way out. It's right there. It's free. It's for you. We love you, and we're glad you're here. On your way out today, right in the front of our building. Also, everybody look inside your bulletin. If you've got one, there should be a card inside there, okay? And that card has our Faith and Family Night. So if you see the Faith and Family Night card, on the lower right-hand side, you'll see a QR code. Here's the deal. We are going to Storm Stadium, which is right here in Lake Elsinore. It's a beautiful little AAA stadium, and we're going to be there on July 26th. So, a couple things. Scan that QR code with your phone, sign you or your family up, and the tickets that are connected to that QR code are discounted. So for many of us, we're like, I can't even take my family to like McDonald's anymore without taking out a loan. And so you're like, it's expensive. So these tickets are literally half price from what they normally be for our church. And so they won't last forever. So if you or your family, even if you don't care about baseball, it's a great family night. It's cheap, it's local, and I think even some of the players are going to give their testimonies, like in between innings and stuff. And for whatever reason, they're going to let me speak there, so they may regret that thing. But it's going to be a great night for Faith and Family. So bring your whole family out. If you got friends, coworkers, or whatever, that would be just a great night for the family, or if that's something you want to be a part of, please be a part of that. We are in Joshua chapter 14, and we're live all over the world right now. I'm so glad you're here with us, coming to you from sunny, beautiful Southern California. And if you're somewhere else in the world, it is Father's Day here in America, and we're going to be talking about that out of Joshua 14, and a man called Caleb and how he managed his life, and the life lessons there for us as men is something that we can implement into our own life. So let me help you with this. Joshua 14, here's what happens. Moses, who led the people of Israel out of slavery in Egypt, is dead. Joshua took over for him. Joshua is Caleb's best friend. They were both spies that spied out the land before Israel moved into the land. So now, Caleb is getting his portion that God promised him for his faithfulness. Joshua 14, verse 6. Then the people of Judah came to Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said to him, "You know what the Lord has said to Moses, the man of God, in Kadesh Barnea, concerning you and me. I was 40 years old," underline 40 years old, "when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought him word again as it was in my heart," circle heart. "But my brothers who went up with me made the heart of the people melt." So everybody pay attention so you're not lost here. When the people of Israel came to the promised land, the border of the promised land, which is modern day Israel. So there's a war going on in the Gaza Strip right now. That area right there is very near Kadesh Barnea in the southern area of Israel. So before they went in, they sent 12 spies, one dude from each tribe, the 12 tribes of Israel. They selected one guy, and Caleb happened to be one of those guys, and Joshua was one of the other guys. 12 spies went into the land to spy it out. They came back. 10 of them told a report that depressed the people. 2 of them said, "Let's have faith," and one of them was Caleb. Verse 8, "But my brothers who went up with me made the heart of the people melt, yet I wholly followed the Lord my God." Underline, wholly followed the Lord my God. "And Moses swore to me on that day, saying, surely the land on which your foot has trodden shall be an inheritance for you and your children forever." Why? "Because you have wholly followed the Lord my God." Circle wholly followed. "And now, behold, the Lord has kept me alive, just as he said, these 45 years," circle 45 years, "since the time the Lord spoke this word to Moses, while Israel walked in the wilderness. And now, behold, I am this day 85 years old. I am as strong today as I was in the day that Moses sent me. My strength now is as my strength was then, for war and for going and coming back. So now, give me this hill country of which the Lord spoken on that day. For you heard on that day how the Anakim were there with great fortified cities. It may be that the Lord will be with me, and I shall drive them out, as the Lord has said. Then Joshua blessed him, blessed him, and gave him Hebron to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, for an inheritance. Therefore, Hebron, which is an area just south of Jerusalem, became an inheritance of Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, to this day. Because, why? He wholly followed, wholly followed again, the Lord, the God of Israel. If you got your notes, pull them out. They should be inside your bulletin if you came on campus. By the way, how are my fireplace people? Third service, best service. Moderately lame. Somebody check on them, make sure they're alive. Hey, if you got your notes, pull them out. They should be inside your bulletin. If you're online with us, I'm glad you're here. At the top of the comments section on Facebook, you'll see a link. Click on that link and my notes will come up. And if you're on YouTube, below the video in the description area, you'll see a link there. You click on that and my notes will come up here. Here we go. Caleb is a faithful father. And we can learn what it means to actually be a follower of God through seeing Caleb. Let me lay this out for everybody. Look at my eyes. Look at my eyes. Ready? If you're a father, obviously this directly affects you if you're a father in the moment right now. If you're a young man and you're like, not a father yet, this will be a pathway for you to follow when you get older. If you are a woman and you're young and you're like, not married yet, I don't have any fathers in my life as far as babies of my own, this is the kind of man you want to choose. If you're an old lady, just encourage the men around you. Here we go. Number one, Caleb was a father of faith. And here we go. Listen to what I'm saying. Look at my eyes, gentlemen. Let me start with this. The foundation for a man of God has to be faith. Our culture has lied to you that the measure of a man is how much money he makes or how popular he is or how much things he buys or the stuff he has. The stuff I stuff in my garage is the measure of a man. Or how many, things I have to rent to pack my stuff in. Here we go. Caleb spent the first 40 years of his life as a slave in Egypt. Woo! Let me start with this. Let me set you in the life of Caleb. 3,500 years ago, this is about 1,500 years before Jesus, 3,500 years ago from our day, is Caleb, okay? He grew up a slave in Egypt. He has known nothing but slavery his whole life. The first 40 years of his life, he is part of the people group of Israel who are enslaved in Egypt. Egypt enslaved that people group because God was blessing them numerically. They were afraid they were going to overthrow the nation, so they enslaved them. So Caleb has known nothing but slavery his whole life. In fact, much of what we see maybe in the Valley of the Kings, if you're familiar with Egypt, obviously some of the pyramids, it all comes from about that time frame and a little before. So it's possible that the people of Israel could have actually worked on some of the things that we even see today as far as what's left over in Egypt, in the sand. But back here is Caleb. Moses is called by God from the desert to come rescue the people of Israel. Israel as a nation is pulled out by Moses, and Caleb comes with them. They are now heading to the promised land. Out of Egypt to the promised land. Caleb is going with them. Moses is leading them. Once Moses rescued Israel, the nation came to the border of Canaan. Caleb stood out so much as a leader among the million people that came out as a nation. Moses chose him and 11 others, one from each tribe, 12 tribes of Israel, to spy out the land they were going to. For 40 days he traveled around Canaan. So over a month he walked around in ancient Israel, envisioning the future for God's people there. So here's our first principle. Ready? Don't let your past dictate what God can do with your future. I'm going to lay this out for you, men. Look at me, okay? One of the lamest parts of masculinity is that men have a very difficult time dealing with emotional things that have happened in the past. Women oftentimes, just based on how God made the genders, have an easier time usually stereotypically in expressing their feelings, expressing what's going on in their mind, what's going on in their heart. They'll talk to their girlfriends, they'll talk to a fence post, they'll talk to anything that's around. Like, let me tell you what's going on. I gotta tell you right now. Get their thumbs out. Look, I got this thing. Guys, it's pretty much like it stays interior. And men often live in quiet desperation inside. Some of that is cultural, but much of it is just how God built masculinity. Just less emotionally expressive. The downside to that is this, is that many things that have happened in our lives or things that we've done, we haven't moved on from. We relive those moments of failure, or we relive those moments of sin or rebellion. And our past then, because we keep reliving it, becomes the dictation of our future. And so Caleb grew up a slave, uneducated, probably at least in the Egyptian system. And so he could have thought, I got all this baggage from my past, I'm not educated, I'm not blah, 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 just make up an excuse for whatever's in his past. And he could have just said, well, I'm not available to do great things for God in the future. But here's the thing, here's a principle I want you to understand. When you have God, you can let go of the past and grab onto God's great future. If you stay stuck in the past, some of us move into the past with our back. We face the past and move into the future going backwards because we always relive. We think about our failures. We think about things we should have done. We live with a lot of regret. We live with a lot of guilt. Could be addiction. Could be I grew up drinking my whole life, or I was a pothead my whole life, and it's all this stuff has just kind of followed me. And now I have my own family. I'm not a young man anymore. Now I got these issues, or whether it's pornography or just the things that have held me down. And it was a struggle when I was younger, and I'm trying to let go of those things, but I kind of just back my way into the future. Let me help you, okay? Stop living in the past, gentlemen. Stop living in the past and move forward into the future. God doesn't even live in the past. God doesn't even fix the past. So there's no reason for you to live back there in your mind. You live into the future where God is waiting for you. God is present with you in the present, which is right now, and God has a glorious future for you. So in the same way that Caleb could have been like, I can never be anything great, he let go of his slave past and said, now I'm going to do something great for God because I've got these gifts and I know God is with me. So when you know God is with you, no one can be against you as you move into the future as long as you know you're following Jesus. So give it up for that, I guess. Here we go. Ready? Understand this. Don't let your past dictate your future, gentlemen. How do I move on from my past? I'm going to help you right now. Don't be an arrogant tool. How can I not be an arrogant tool, Pastor Jim? I will help you in that area too. Apologize for the things that you've done wrong. Okay? Apologize. Men oftentimes have a hard time apologizing because they're prideful and they don't want to show weakness or whatever. Stop that mess, okay? All that does is just chain you to the past. So whatever you've done wrong to your wife, to your kids, to somebody at work, to a business partner, whatever, the only way you let go of the past and grow onto the future is you go, I just want to apologize for, the struggle I had with alcohol when you were growing up, kids. I'm trying to become a better man. I'll never be perfect, but I can be better than I am. And so I just want you to know I'm pursuing Jesus now. I didn't live for God back then. I just want to say I apologize for the things I've done in the past, but I'm not that guy anymore. I'm going to try to prove that to you in the future. So you go out of your way to go, that was BC me. That was before Christ me. That was BC me. I'm no longer BC. I'm PC, post-Christ me. Okay? I'm now with Jesus, so I'm going to try to get better as a husband. I'm going to try to get better as a dad. I'm going to try to get better as a father or a grandfather or as a business partner, whatever it is. That's how you move on. Is you go, I can only do what I can do, which is I can't fix my past, but I can apologize for it and move on from it. Don't live back there, live here. And the way you let go of there is go, I just apologize to everybody. I need to whoever my issues were back here, I just want to say I apologize. I'm going to get better as a man. And whether they accept it or not, that's on them. Let God work on their heart. But as far as you be at peace. Let go, grab on. That's what Caleb did. Let go of his slave past, move on. God's going to do something great over here. When the spies gave their report, all 12 of them, only Caleb and Joshua had faith that God was going to give them the land. The other 10 spies discouraged the people and caused God to send them to wander in the desert for 40 years until that generation died. Think about this. Caleb came back from 40 days wandering around in Israel. And he comes back and goes, you guys, you're not going to believe it. It's amazing. This place is amazing. I can't believe that God's going to give us this place. It's like somebody's going to just offer you their mansion out on, in the vineyard out just outside of Temecula, and they go, hey, I know you've been living this way. Boom, come have this. And you're like, you guys are not going to believe it. We're going to get this vineyard like mansion. We've been living in a cardboard box under the freeway that they're never going to finish. But we can imagine. And imagine only 2 of the 12 go, let's go take it. God split the Red Sea. God took us out of the most powerful nation in the history of the world 3,500 years ago, which was Egypt. Dude, who can stop us? And the other 10 spies are like, dude, we're going to get killed. Literally, our children are going to get slaughtered. You guys crazy? We can't take these people. They're giants in the land. It's like roid boys hanging out, pumping dimes. We're going to get smoked. You joking? And all the people just go, oh. And God goes, hang on, time out. I just took you out the Red Sea. You're going to give up on me right now? Hey, guess what? We're going to go on a little trip. And God goes, come follow me into the desert. It'd be like if God said, hey, you don't think I can give you the vineyard there because there's some tough people that own the vineyard? Come walk with me on the other side of Anza. How long are we going to be out here on the other side of Anza, God? I don't know, just keep going towards Palm Springs. And you know what's sad? Joshua had to walk with him. Caleb had to walk with him. For their failure, he even had to pay. But look what he does. Over 40 years later, only Joshua and Caleb entered the land from that generation. And Caleb, was given the special area of Hebron. Hebron is where Abraham's tomb is. So when I take you to Israel and we go tour the land again, we may swing through Hebron. Abraham's tomb is there. It's a beautiful little spot south of Jerusalem. And it's obviously important to the Jewish people. It's important to Christians. Even Muslims would say, hey, Abraham's buried here or whatever. And so Hebron was in some respects, it was almost more special than Jerusalem for a lot of the time frame. So Caleb gets this sweet spot because he was faithful. And here's our second principle. God honors men who put their faith into action. God honors men who put their faith into action. Listen to what I'm saying to you. Men like to talk about things that they're proud of or that they want. Men are smack talkers. Women just like talk. But when men open their mouth, it's usually some kind of smack. Dude, you're weak. That was lame. Is that the best you have? Is that it? Right there? That's the best you got? Let's go. You know what? The things that come out of your mouth, make sure they're godly and faithful. The things that come out of your mouth as a man, make sure they are orienting yourself and people toward God. Because it doesn't matter what you say, it matters what you do. So it doesn't matter if you say, I love God, or I do this thing. If it's not coming out in how you act with your wife or with your kids, or how you are at school, or how you are at the job, or how you are on the 15 freeway, if it's not coming out, then your words have no value. It's just bluster. It's like, I love God, but I don't really act like God. You can't have it both ways. Speak the words, speak what's true about God, but also act on what's true about God in your heart. And then your wife will see, my husband has integrity. Like, he not only says it, but he does it. Your kids are like, Dad not only says it, but he does it. People at work are like, he's the best worker we got here, because when he says something, he gets it done. He doesn't try to pull off some shady stuff. That's what I'm talking about. Caleb was the man that's like, dude, let's get it done. And when Caleb said it was going to get done. Because your family knows what happens at home. Nobody knows the husband better than the wife. Because she sees him at all times of life. And even the kids. Kids see what happens at home, whether things are true or not. And it reminds me of this meme where a kindergartner was writing a little story about what she knew about her dad. And here's the paper she filled out. That feeling when you wish your kid would lie once in a while. So she's filling out this thing. She's writing a sentence. Who eats the most at a picnic? And the choices are mosquitoes or the dog. But she wrote, my dad. He's chubby and has a problem. So guess what? Kids know what happens at home. Nobody knows dad and the father better than the people who live with them. So here's what I'm saying. Ready? It doesn't matter what you say if it's not backed up with action. And the things you do say should be life-giving and Jesus-oriented. But then make sure those words are also backed up with what you do. Which leads us to number 2. Number 1, Caleb was a father of faith. He had faith in God. He had a past, but it didn't affect his future. Why? Because he had faith that God was going to do something great in the future. Number 2, Caleb was a father of faithfulness. So hang on. I thought you said he was a father of faith. Isn't that the same thing? It's actually not the same thing. Faithfulness is the long-term action of being a man of faith. Faithful means I don't have faith in one moment of time. I have faith over a long period of time. It's the kind of faithfulness that when you're dead, people at your funeral go, dude, he was a man of God. Like, man, I did business with him. He was legit. And your daughter walks up and goes, he's like the best man I ever knew. Like, I wanted to marry a guy like my father. It's that thing. It isn't just momentary like, hey, I went to church one time for Father's Day because my family was nagging me. It's a thing of like, it's just a long-term grind of trying to do the right thing for Jesus. You'll never be perfect, but you can strive to be godly. We'll never be perfect, man. But that's okay from the standpoint that as long as I'm walking towards Jesus, I should be more like him as I get older. I shouldn't be less like God. Caleb was a father of faithfulness. Caleb was a slave 40 years in Egypt to start his life, then a spy who believed God when others didn't, and then he wandered for 40 years in the desert for something that wasn't his fault. Hey, dads, you ever had to pay for stuff that wasn't your fault? You ever had to bail your kid out of jail? You ever had to pay for that window that you told your son, stop hitting those rocks with the aluminum baseball bat, son? And then he hits a rock and busts somebody's really expensive front window? Well, guess what? Your 11-year-old who should have listened to you ain't going to be paying $1,400 for that dual pane window. You know who's going to be paying for it? You, daddy. You're paying that cash. Wasn't even your fault, and you got to work overtime to pay off your son's stupidity. Ever had a daughter that was in cheerleading? Dad, I really want to be a cheerleader. And you're thinking as a dad in the back of your mind, like, oh, good, she chose a cheap sport. Yeah. It's like, you better take out a loan to buy all the different outfits that your daughter's going to need for cheerleading for the next 4 years. Sell a car. You might have to even sell one of your kids. Sorry, Johnny, you got to go with them. I got to pay for your sister's cheerleading. You ever had a son in baseball? Baseball eats your life. I just want to tell you, parents, there's a tournament in Las Vegas this weekend, and the next one's in Bangladesh next month. And all of a sudden, you're just like, okay, gosh, how much? Hey, you know what? Part of being a father is this. Sometimes you got to pay for the people you're responsible for. Because that's your role. Your role sometimes is to eat it so others can do better. Sometimes your role is to carry the weight that other people can't carry. That's why God built man. Our culture's taught men to just kind of be selfish and like when things are hard, just bail and just be all about yourself. And your home is about you. No, your home is about you serving your home. Because that's the weight God expects you to carry. And by God's grace, you can carry it. But it takes a different change of mind in how you view your home. And Caleb did that. Caleb knew disappointment and frustration, but never wavered in loving God. And here's our principle. Fathers may not choose their circumstances, but they can always choose their response. Hey, dads, fathers, future fathers, young men that are going to be fathers someday. Look at that graphic. You're not always going to get to choose your circumstances. Your kids are sometimes going to make really bad choices that you're going to have to fix. But you can always choose how you respond. Because that's what men of God do, is they get other people's backs. And they help the weak. That's what your wife expects out of you. That's what your children expect out of you. Fathers may not choose their circumstances, but they can always choose their response. Caleb didn't get to choose where he was born or what time in history he was born. But God had a beautiful future for him, and he didn't give up. He pursued that future, and then God blessed him. But watch this. While God blessed Caleb, in the blessing of the father comes the blessing of the home. And because Caleb was a man of God, the blessing of God on that man bled into his home. It's like everybody gets the blessing. The wife gets a blessing. The children get a blessing. When you see men of God, you should see a blessing in their home. Doesn't mean everything's perfect. Doesn't mean that man's perfect. It means this. When you see men of God walking with God and their family following, you'll see the blessing of God on that home. Not always financial, sometimes relational, sometimes it's just organized and you see the beauty of a home that has God at the center. Why? Because the husband is the leader of that charge for God. Though Caleb was a leader, a warrior, and a man of God, he never overstepped his role in supporting Joshua, who was once his equal. They were both spies when God chose Joshua to replace Moses. Nothing is uglier than jealousy. Use your strength to support others and make their lives better. So let me help you with this, guys, because sometimes men will struggle with like, why does that guy get that thing? Or why is he in that position? Or, think about this. You're equal with somebody in rank, or you went to the same school, you got the same degree, but all of a sudden, he becomes your supervisor. And all of a sudden, you're like, you had to spend all your mental energy trying to tear that person down rather than go chasing God over in this direction. He's got a whole other beautiful thing for you over here. Caleb didn't get caught up in that. He's like, man, once his equal, Joshua became the main man after Moses died, Caleb was like, I support you. What do you need? I got your back. One of the worst things you can do is try to tear down a man of God that God is blessing. Because you're mad or jealous or whatever. It's like the worst thing you can do, because then you're actually opposing God. Because if God's doing something with a dude and you fight against that, you're literally just fighting against God. And there's no more miserable people than the people who are fighting against the people that God's blessing. It's like when God was blessing Israel and people tried to kill him and fight him and blah, blah, blah. And God's like, I'm going to still protect him. I'm going to still take care of him. You're literally fighting an uphill battle. So here's my point, gentlemen. Ready? Always be the supporter, because God will guide you in the way of your blessing. Don't be jealous of someone else's blessing. And here's our principle. Godly fathers use their shine to help others shine brighter. Woo! Shine on! Godly fathers use their shine. Whatever shine God's given them, godly fathers use it as a mirror. They don't just absorb it and go, the family's all about me. They reflect it. The blessing of God comes to men, and it goes to other people. It blesses the wife. It blesses the children. It blesses the church. It blesses our culture. Men of God should be a reflector of God's glory, not just an absorber of it. Ready? Men, you are built to honor God with your life. And part of that is making sure other people's lives are better than yours. You'll be amazed how when you start serving other people, God blesses you with more. Because he who is faithful in a little will be faithful with a lot. So be faithful with a little, and God will bless you with more. Why? Because you're able to handle it, and you have the right heart of humility. Hey, it's not about me. It's about God and me serving you. Ready? Look at me. Men of God are always concerned with other people. With your kids, with your wife, with people at work, with this church. Ready? This church is built on godly men and women. But primarily men, like when people walk through this door, it's a true story. Sometimes I'll just hang out at the door and hear what people say. I have literally heard women walk through the door and go like this. Look at all the men here. Like it's shocking that there's a lot of men at church. Well, you know what? This church is built on a godly view of godly men, which is we serve, we love, we use our strength for the betterment of others, not just for ourselves. And then God is honored and God blesses with more. Here's a picture of fatherhood. I love this illustration. This is a picture of when men just give of themselves to others. And it's the idea that you exhaust yourself to make your wife's life better, to make your daughter's life better, to make your son's life better. You give of who you are for the wholeness of others. And then as you give of yourself, God gives you the strength to continue. Because someday, gentlemen, you and I will be gone, and our sons and our daughters will run their own homes. You're responsible for generationally handing down the blessing of God. And that comes from you and I just being men of God as we bless our homes. Your wife should be stoked out of her mind that she has you for a husband. You sexy beast. Woo! 17 women are excited. Hey, your kids should be stoked out of their minds that they have you for a dad. There's no perfect dads. There's no perfect home. It's always going to be dysfunctional at some level. But here's the thing. When daughters look at their dad, they go, that's the kind of husband I want. Boom. I'm going to try to find a man like that because that's the kind of home I want. I want a man like that leading our home. Young men are like, boom, that's the kind of dad I want. That's the kind of dad I want to be. It's the kind of father I want to be. Like it's the kind of man I want. And young men emulate men that they respect. So be a man of respect. You don't have to be perfect, but just always be striving towards Jesus. And you'll be amazed how people go, man, I see Jesus in you. Let me illustrate what I'm talking about. I went to Home Depot. And I got these plants. This wagon is your family. You are the leader of your home. You're the father that guides your home. Your home goes where the father leads it. And where the father goes, many times you get a job in a different state or you get a different whatever, blah, blah. Hey, we're going to a different church or we're doing blah, blah, blah. And the family goes, okay. And they go to whatever. And you literally drag your family around for good or for bad. You can make a really bad call and your family ends up in a bad situation. So here's the reality. These plants represent people in your home. This rose bush is maybe your wife, who's beautiful, but a little thorny sometimes. None of the wives in here, probably other people outside the church. And you got all these plants. They all take different types of care. But you're the man who leads it. And you're the man who has to make sure that people in their family are doing well. Many of us grew up in homes where dad didn't do that. Dad let go, and he went and did something else. And we don't know what it's like to have a man that leads a home. Single moms, many of us that grew up in single moms home, praise God that somebody, she went and tried to pick up the handle and led the home. But the reality is then she had to do two roles, which is like figure out about home stuff and figure out about relationship stuff when really the husband and the man of the home should have been leading that home in love and care and making sure everybody inside of his wagon was doing the best they can. Because that's your job as a man. I give of myself that others might flourish. I literally give of my life to make sure my wagon, when it follows me, is following Jesus. Lastly, number 3, Caleb was a father of a faithful family. At 85 years old, Caleb was 85 years old when he got his first home. Some of you guys are crying because you haven't got a home yet. He's 85. He should have been drinking like Metamucil and Sure. Guess what? He goes, man, I'm as strong at 85 as I was at 35 or at 25. He goes, let me go do it. Caleb had a never die attitude. And you want to know something? I named my son Caleb on this story. Because he was a man of faith, he was a man of strength, he was a man of integrity, he was a man who led his wagon well. He wasn't perfect just like me or you, but he tried to be a man of God, and God honored him. And when God honors a man of God, God blesses that home behind him. Caleb was the only individual to receive his own land from God. Caleb was the only individual. Everybody else got tribal allotments. Caleb was the only individual that God said, I'm going to give you individually a piece of land, because that's how faithful you were. As a father, Caleb made sure his daughter Aksah married a brave man of God named Othniel. And we see that in the next chapter in Joshua 15. His daughter marries Othniel, who was an amazing young man of God. And Caleb made sure when his daughter left his home, she married a man of God. So that meant that Caleb was involved in his daughter's affairs, in his son's affairs. Caleb was an involved dad and made sure the man that she was thinking about marrying was a man of God. And so much so, Othniel actually became the first judge of Israel. That's how godly of a man he was. So the point I'm making is this: Caleb handed down generations of godliness. Here's our principle: godly fathers protect, guide, and bless their family. That's the trinity of masculinity. Protect, guide, and bless. So here's what I'm going to leave you with. Look at me. I close with this. Gentlemen, fathers, you are loved here. We love you. God loves you. And I want to see nothing but God do great things in your own heart and great things in your wagon. Because God will bless a home through a man of God. So be that man this week. How do I do that? Apologize for things in the past. Let me be super practical, so it's not like ethereal. Apologize for things in the past that you know that you were a part of, okay? In the present, make sure you're doing godly things, whether it's your speech, pray with your kids, pray with your wife. Start small and build towards greater things. Bible verses, do you have thumbs? Take those thumbs out, text your wife a verse during the week. Go, you look smoking hot this morning before I left for work. Here's a Bible verse from Psalms. Love you and some Jesus. That's how you make steps of your wife going, oh, he's pursuing Jesus. Family goes, oh, we're pursuing Jesus as a family. Get your family to church. Thank you so much for coming to church on Father's Day. Do things that your family goes, oh, we're about God. Not about going to the river. Not about just making more money. Not about having more stuff. We're about Jesus first. If God blesses you with those things, okay, that's okay. It's okay to have money. It's okay to be popular. It's okay. Those things are okay as a secondary thing. But the primary thing has to be Jesus first. Everything else takes a back seat. Because that's where your wagon will always end up. Following Jesus is when you follow Jesus. So let's be men of God this week.